All right, you groovy grasshoppers. This is a special day for us. The great Bill Brown's on. Well, Mark Partnick's here too, is from Patriot Training Systems. But Bill's been on with us before. Bill is a retired Navy SEAL. He holds the distinction too. How many Navy SEALs have there ever been?
I'm not quite sure, but I'd say anywhere 4,000 to 6,000 maybe.
Right. And Bill, for you guys know, he holds the record of having the smallest penis for any man that's ever been. About 4,000.
Oh man, the truth hurts, Tom.
I shouldn't fucking say too much because I'm home like a tuna can. So careful. Bill, how are you doing? Everything's going good though?
I mean, I'm a little upset. The girl's been talking, I guess, but
the secret's out.
Yeah, she was complaining. How you got a son? How old is he now?
He's 24.
Wow. And your daughter too, right? How old is she?
She's 10.
Wow.
Yeah, both redheads. I'm looking for the mailman.
I know. My two boys are 34 and 31. They're freaking so smart. And I'm thinking, there's just no way they're my kids.
I gotta work. I can't even get on half the rides. I'm short because I'm too short. And one son's 6'2", and the other one's like 6'1". So
right. So we want to talk to Bill about a few things, but we got a real Bill. I correct me if I'm wrong. I guess I label Bill as a patriot. I like to think I am one too. I think that's a big thing with Bill. Obviously, serving the country the way he did, but he hasn't stopped being a patriot just because he's no longer serving as a Navy SEAL. Bill was responsible. Bill and Mark, but Bill came up with the idea of putting together the Swim Across the Hudson, which is a huge success. And one of the participants is the nominated for. What's he nominated for, Pete?
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. So a lot of, whenever that kind of stuff happens, especially somebody that Trump appoints, everybody's going after him, making all these accusations and everything like that. So Bill is putting together a group of people to go down. The hearing for him is January 14th. Is that correct?
That's right, Tom.
Very cool. Good. And so you're putting together as many people as possible to go down, meet down there to support him.
That's right. Couple things. I kind of look at what's going on. You look at just what happened yesterday. You had a poor woman who's burnt alive on the subway.
Yeah.
And then on the same day, I don't think it's Biden because I think, that guy's not making any decisions, but they pardon child killers, mass murderers, from the death penalty. And it's like, what type of message are they sending? Like, to be honest with you, things are getting so insane right now.
Yeah.
Like it's becoming the woke ideology that's infested the Democratic Party. It's making us all unsafe.
Yeah.
Like when they're burning people on the subways, I mean, enough is enough. And that's kind of how a lot of us felt in the military. I was a SEAL in 9/11. I was a first responder to 2 suicide bombings. Like I tried to chase down the second suicide bomber. He got away and blew open a bazaar. And to be honest with you, I saw some real horror real close, and the sounds of the women screaming and stuff and the body parts and stuff. I'm like totally opposed to the horror of like the jihadist Islamic ideology. And now I'm becoming like opposed to this woke ideology just because it's really making us dangerous. Now, I do believe there's beautiful Muslims, 100%. But I've read the Quran, and there's the interpretation of the language. It's like it's not tolerant of other religions. It's just straight up. And so I couldn't be real with myself and see that and not be opposed to that. And then like when I saw what happened on October 7th in Israel, it like stirred up a lot of like emotional stuff for me from stuff I saw in Iraq. And so I got to be honest with you guys. When I was in Iraq in 2004, 2005, a lot of the SEALs, that I served with, we really believed we were making a difference. Like we were there the first time women have ever voted. Like I can tell you, it must have been like, I don't know, like 105, 110 degrees out sometimes. And I'd be going from A to B someplace, and there'd be like these women all dressed in black, could barely see them. And I'm like, my God, you know how hot it is for them to be outside like that? and just to like for humanity, like just the humanity, like just to the way people should be treat each other. I was just kind of repulsed by it, to be sincere, and so when I saw the way that they pulled out of Iraq,
Ooh, yeah. Wow.
and they left a power vacuum there, and then ISIS came in there and started committing all these horrors, like burning people alive and torturing people, and it was grotesque as grotesque can be. I was really like, I became up straight up. I like, I didn't believe I believed the leadership in our Pentagon was compromised, 100%. And then when I saw the same thing happen in Afghanistan, where they give trillions of dollars of military equipment. This is equipment that can kill people and intimidate people. Trillions of dollars to jihadists, to the Taliban. Look how they treat women. Look how they treat any others. They'll kill you over there. They'll kill you in a second over there if you don't submit to their oppressive ideology.
Yeah.
And like we gave trillions, and we're giving all types of billions of dollars to them every year. Like I'm disgusted with the Pentagon. I think their leadership is compromised. When they let a spy balloon go over some of our most sensitive military real estate,
Yeah.
our ballistic intercontinental ballistic fields, like something's wrong in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Like, wake up! Something is wrong in the Pentagon. Hey, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say is, look, they got Pete Hegseth in there. And for me, I could say, yeah, it's personal, 100%. It's personal. Look, this guy rogered up for the SEAL swim. When that legacy media was hating on us every year, sending these negative stories about the SEAL teams. And a lot of it, I believe, because a lot of SEALs, kind of like myself, were raising the bullshit flag, saying, hey, we had enough. And I think that's why they tried to target our trademark, the SEAL community, with all these negative stories, kind of slandering who we are. So, Pete Hegseth and Fox News every year helped us send a positive patriotic message of unity. Like, this is who the members, men and women in our military are really about, and the SEAL community about. Like, they're going to travel across the country, swim across one of the dangerous and dirtiest rivers in the country to raise a bunch of money for other veterans. Like, that's who we really are.
Yeah.
And he helped us raise millions of dollars for that. Like, no bullshit, millions. And so, hell yeah, I'm supporting that guy. And here's the thing. We want to talk about leadership. Look, you got a lot of intellectuals in the Pentagon, but the truth is they bent a knee to this woke ideology. They didn't speak up. They bent a knee. They were silent. They got to go. They got to go. And Pete's out there. You talk about leadership. Leadership is about having a vision and having the courage to speak up. And that's what's happening. We got a clean house there. Look, man, shit is getting bad around the planet, around the country. The truth is, the woke ideology, it's infested the Democratic leadership, and it's putting us all in danger. It's putting us in danger in our cities. It's putting us in danger across the map. Look, we're in trouble here. Now, I love our technology, right? And one of the things I like about it is with cancel culture, like, they try to oppress our ability to free speech because they don't want us to question their terrible ideas.
Yeah.
And the consequences of their ideas. Like, think about all those Afghanistans who wanted a better life for their daughters and their wives, put it on the line, supporting us. When we left, how many of them were murdered and tortured? And think about all the women now, young girls over there, zero education now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like subservient, like lifestyle. And where are all these female advocates out on the Democratic side? They're silent. They're asleep at the wheel because they're fake. They're fake. You know what?
Yeah.
If they really cared, they'd be out there front and center. And so, look, man, it's time for the adults to take the fucking room. And so what I'm trying to say is, look, I believe number one is we got to, for too long, too many good men and women have been silent. And we've been silent because we've been afraid to speak up because some of it wasn't affecting us directly, wasn't affecting our kids directly. Well, it is now. In certain states now, they can take away your kid and the state will pay for him or her to have a sex change without the parents' consent.
I know.
Or, you know, at first I was like, hey, I'm a dad to a little girl. You're going to let biological men in the girls' bathroom? Like, hell no. Or like, okay, you're going to let biological men compete against girls? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking crazy. And the truth is, like, we got to fucking speak up. We're in trouble. This country is in trouble. Like, we have to. So what I want to do is, like, that woke ideology has infested the Pentagon. Breaks my heart, but it's true. It's infested academia. It's true. It's infected our legal institutions. Let me tell you, I don't believe in certain states, if you're an outspoken conservative and they get wind of it, you can get a fair trial. You look at how the lawfare, and here's, I'm an attorney, right? I used a GI Bill after I honorably served our country, and I wound up becoming a lawyer. And I can tell you, this is my truth, guys. The biggest threat to our republic, democracy, this nation's ever faced isn't any type of foreign threat. It's just the truth. It's recently with lawfare, where they tried to use political hack attorneys and judges, state prosecutors, federal prosecutors, to subvert the will of the people to decide who we wanted to be as president. That is the straight up truth. And I'll tell you the truth. If I don't think, honestly, look, I'm a lawyer and I'm very concerned about what's happening here. I think there's a huge questions marks regarding our judicial process. I think there's institutions, our electoral system. Like, I think there should be a huge congressional investigation into our electoral process, because I think there's huge question marks on it. So what am I trying to do? What I'm trying to do is, look, the one thing I realized about this last election is they will do anything and everything to retain power. They'll try to use lawyers to falsely prosecute you and put you in prison for the rest of your life. Look what they did to Mayor Giuliani. That guy, the way he rose to the occasion after 9/11, brought us all together. They bankrupted that guy. They ruined that guy's life.
Yeah.
And you don't think, and you think about and here's something else. Like, all these guys coming over to meet up with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago now, like Zuckerberg from Facebook.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you, all my friends that are SEALs that spoke up against the COVID mandates and a lot of them had small businesses, and they used their social media platforms for their marketing, and they got shut down on social media over and over again because they questioned the COVID mandates or the vaccines. And guess what? President Trump got shut down. And guess what? They violated. There was absolutely joint activity between federal agents and these private big social media companies, 100%. And guess what? And all those judges who ruled and said that they couldn't find joint activity, well, they're in it too. Yeah. And I got to tell you something. I hope Trump doesn't forget the way they stepped on our right to freedom of speech. Like, I hope he doesn't forget that. And guys, I can tell you the truth. I was just shut down on YouTube. My whole account was recently terminated. Now, I'm going to tell you something.
Hold on, Bill. So can I ask you a question? Did they tell you why when they shut it down?
Yeah, they did. They stated that I was promoting, violated their policies on spam and some other stuff. And so, and I appealed it. My appeal got denied twice. And so I have some Israeli friends. And if some Israeli friends gave me some information for certain individuals very high up in YouTube. And so I reached out to them, and they did the right thing, and they put my account back on.
Oh, cool.
And I'll tell you and I had some friends in the Trump administration I reached out to too. And I can tell you one of the things that happened. They tried to state that on certain YouTube videos, at least I believe this is what they tried to do, on certain YouTube videos regarding Pete Hegseth, I put the link for our petition and sign up form for the march. And then and I'm not sure if it was that or as I posted basically a video that I took when I was at an event for a gentleman named Div Tesler, who was security at the Nova Musical Festival on October 7th. And he talks about the horrors that he saw. And let me tell you, they were horrific. And it brought back some of my memories as when I was a first responder to 2 suicide bombings. And I described in detail in the description. Now, I got shut down, terminated from YouTube 2 days or a day after that. Now, I don't know if it's that post or it's the links to the petition and sign up form for our March for Pete Hegseth. But either way, I'll give it to YouTube. They did the right thing when their leadership saw that I didn't violate any of their policies and put it back up. But here's the truth. How many guys have the ability, like I do,
Yeah.
to have friends in Israel that can point me to leadership so I can get direct messaging to leadership, or have connections to the Trump administration? Not many.
Yeah.
Now they straight up tried to, and the thing that really hurt me on that, guys, is because I use my YouTube videos to document my veterans advocacy. I have years of those videos on there. Now they don't have like a lot of likes, some of them do, but some of them, it's just for me like a historical record of some of my endeavors. Like, like I'm out here advocating and I want for the historical record so my kids or grandkids can look at it later in life.
Sure.
That was extremely personal to me. And that's just one example.
Hey, Bill, can I jump in 1 second? I want to introduce you to a couple of veterans here that follow us too. William Haynes out in Chicago.
Oh yeah, good man.
Everybody will go back to start. This is Bill Brown, retired Navy SEAL, good friend of ours. Him and Mark put together the Swim Across the Hudson. So William Haynes out in Chicago. We got Ron Jamison. Yep. We got Ron Jamison up in Buffalo, another veteran. Yep. And then we've got Barry Shelley, who I think you met before. He's up in Cooperstown, New York. So
Barry's a force multiplier out there. He does a lot
Yes.
for a New Jersey Warriors veterans hockey program that helps out a lot of veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that guy a lot.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
So,
Love
hey, what I need your help, guys, and
Yep.
both you gentlemen, man, thank you so much for having my back. Tom,
Yep.
you're a legend. Mark, you're a legend. Honored to be your friends.
Likewise.
I'm organizing a march, and we're going to follow Martin Luther King Jr.'s example, because one of the things I noticed from January 6th is the way they tried to paint a movement like they didn't have reasonable means for protesting, and they basically tried to discredit the whole movement.
Oh.
So to me, I served my country with honor. We served our country with honor. And we represent the SEAL community, right? Because the truth is, I am a leader in the SEAL community. And so we want to make sure that no one can discredit us or our message. And so I'm inviting all SEALs, all veterans, all patriots, all Americans who've had enough of this woke ideology to get up there. And on January 14th, we'll meet at 9 a.m. at the Vietnam Memorial Wall. That big wall with all the names of the fallen in Vietnam.
Right.
Remember how they treated those poor Vietnam veterans,
Oh,
right?
I know.
And guess what? We love those guys and we honor them, their service. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't forgotten the way they were treated. And that's one of the reasons we're going to start our march there. But then we'll march to the Korean War Memorial, the DC War Memorial, the World War II War Memorial. And then we'll march off a safe distance location away from the Senate buildings, but close enough. Because what we're trying to do is we're not trying to intimidate anybody. That's not what we're about. We're going to hold nothing but American flags. Like if you see any flags that aren't American, that's not us. That's Antifa or somebody else trying to perpetrate like they're us. That ain't us.
Right.
If you see anybody wearing masks, that ain't us, because no one's going to be wearing a mask. We're proud for everyone to see and know exactly who we are. We're not looking for any drama. Now, here's the truth. There will be many Navy SEALs there, and we will absolutely have the right to exercise our right to self-defense. We're Navy SEALs. We won't be getting beat up. That won't be happening.
I feel like I'm only laughing because it reminds me of a story. Sorry to interrupt you. One of the swims that I attended with you guys, there was a rumor when you guys had swam across to Lower Manhattan. There was a rumor that Antifa was going to be showing up when you guys were going to the site of 9/11, and it was so funny because there's about 200 Navy SEALs with just a pair of shorts on, all jacked up, and a flagpole over the shoulder, and we were all laughing like, "Yeah, Antifa's going to show up to this." And I was like,
Bill, should we tell Tom about the whole flagpole idea we had?
No, let's keep that between friends.
Yeah.
That was a concern one year,
Yeah.
100%. And the NYPD, PAPD, and their counterterrorism outfits, and even the FBI did a great job looking out for us.
Wow.
And I can tell you the truth. I was, my son and I were at the inauguration for Trump the first time. And it was, I can tell you what, I was extremely concerned. They let that go out of control. My son and I literally had to walk through on my Facebook page. I don't use anymore, but I got a video there, my old Facebook page, with me and my son literally walking through a riot, and they're all like wearing caifes, dressed up in black and like boots, breaking a window at a Starbucks. And I had my son there, and I had like this long umbrella. That's all I really had. But luckily they saw me and literally walked right through this thing. And, they just let us be, because a lot of them were like college kids, local college kids,
Right.
wearing masks, and right around Georgetown University students and things like that. I was not messing around. If any of them tried to assault me and my son, they were going to get it. But, and I'm not looking for any trouble, but I realized there's, that, we live in dangerous times. But I don't think anyone's going to mess with 100+ SEALs. I just don't think it's a good idea, but you never know.
Yeah.
But
That's going to be the problem, right? Because it gets out when we want it to get out that everybody's going to be there. So you would think that there's going to be somebody and don't you think a lot of the times, and you probably know better, well, you do know better than I do, that some of these people are getting paid to attend these things too, to stir the pot, right?
That's right. Now we don't like what we want to do is, like, I've already had talks with the Secret Service and things like that.
Oh.
And one of the things I was really impressed with, because I did some internal security for two pro-Israel, like counter-Hamas marches, one at Columbia University and the other at UCLA. We kind of guarded or protected or overwatched on some of their VIPs there internally and covertly. And one of the things I was extremely impressed with the NYPD, it was they were able to keep the two groups separate. I thought it was tremendous policing. I was extremely impressed. And I believe that the Capitol Police and things like that, they'll do the same type of professional policing. But yeah, I think it's important for good men and women to come up and show up, because what we want to do is we realize that there's all types of internal pressures that some of these senators are getting exposed to from the far left that we can't even see. And so we want them just to know that, like, where the war fighters in our country stand. Like, we stand with Pete Hegseth, and the real reason why is because we believe there's a real problem with leadership in the Pentagon. We think they've been compromised. We think they've been seriously compromised to the part where some of their decision making isn't in America's best interest. Like, when you let a Chinese spy balloon go over, where our intercontinental ballistic missiles are launched from, like, something's wrong. When you give trillions of dollars of military equipment to our enemies, something's wrong. Like, something's wrong. There's got to be investigations. Like, I honestly think there's certain leadership in the Pentagon that should be tried for treason. Like, I think it's, we got to look at their finances. We got to look at their emails. Like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And so that's where.
So, Bill, let me ask you this. So there's something wrong. Why are they doing this? And I mean, if it's obviously, if it's endangering our country and the people of this country, why are they doing it? Like, it's money, right? There's some money trail someplace.
Well, I think money has a lot to do with it. I think it's You know, a lot of things, Tom, there's a variable of different factors that have an influence on the final decision making process. So I think money's number one. I think number two, some type of personal interest, number one, for some of these, you know, gross, you know, decisions that were made that were adverse to our nation's best interest. Number two is, the truth is, I think Elon Musk is right. You know, these different ideologies, like what happens, it's almost like programming. You're going to program a computer to do certain things. You're going to code it, right?
Mhm.
Well, these ideologies are almost like the way you would code someone's perspectives, right? And so I think one of the most concerning things about a lot of these ideologies is, look, a lot of jihadists, right? They in Germany, the guy ran a truck into a mall recently, and they got him on videotape because they tried to paint it like it was something else, and then the video got out that he yelled Allah Akbar, right?
Oh,
And so the thing is, when I compare the similarities between the woke ideology and even like the fundamental Islamic jihadist type of ideology, there's one thing they kind of have in common, and that is I like this superiority kind of complex. And one, they justify in the Islamic jihadist type of ideology, they believe that their religion is the only religion,
yeah.
and they're justified by God to in any and every way to make that the dominant form of government and religion on the planet. Now, when you compare that with the woke ideology, there's a similar type of superiority type of complex where they believe that they're mentally and morally superior to the rest of us.
Yeah.
And so that way they justify their actions as far as cancel culture, because they don't need to compete with other ideas because they're mentally and morally superior. So they can oppress our free speech. You know, they can, you know, the military, you know, and that's where the issue is wrong with the military, because when you're in, when, by the way, the Democratic Party is extremely corrupt in all levels, right?
Yeah.
But when you're very corrupt and you believe you're morally and academically superior, then it's just a total disaster. And the results are, if you look at a lot of the big cities where there's been complete Democratic control, you see a lot of chaos. You
Sure.
see economic instability. You see law enforcement degrading. Like,
Homelessness is huge. Like San Francisco's a mess right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, what you ever watch the TV show Survivor, The View?
no, but I see some clips every once in a while.
I must admit, I hate to admit it, I have to watch like the first 10 minutes. I just think it's hilarious. Like, it's like you talk about feeling they're superior. They don't want to hear anything that anybody else has to say. This is the way it is. Even when the election happened, the one woman on there, that Sunny, whatever, mentioned that she basically said that any woman all the women that voted for Trump were all uneducated women. So it's like, but it kind of goes to your point. The reason I bring it up is it's like they can't just accept that somebody has a different thought that they do, right? It's that they're correct. That's it. There's no.
That's one of the things why I think it's so. That's what at first, to be sincere with you, I disagreed with President Trump's pick of JD Vance, and I'll tell you the reason why. Now we won this election, and that was a battle we won. But for the total engagement and the totality of things that are at risk here, one of the big attributes for the Democratic Party is they really were successful in playing us on race and gender type of stereotypes. It's almost like a form of tribalism.
Yeah. You
can kind of see, it kind of reminds me how like prison wardens will play different racial prison gangs each other to kind of retain order. And it's similar, it's kind of a similar concept that I actually believe that a lot of these like DE&I committees, actually it promotes more racial diversion than unity. And one of the things I do believe with technology, and one of the reasons why with like legacy media is losing out to alternative forms of media like your podcast, is now the View isn't the only thing that people can see,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the other kind of cool thing about when I look at the View, when I was in undergrad, and I was so much law school because the intelligent and astuteness was at a different level than in undergrad. But in undergrad, especially some of my political science classes, the temperature of the room was very left. It's Rutgers, right? But I was able to, I would call it lollipops. I would get somebody who was a little like intellectually dull, and I'd wait for them to speak up, and I just academically, like the way my questions were, just snipe the hell out of their reasoning.
Right.
And it would be kind of like shake up the class and the professor a little bit, because it would put an icing chilling effect sometimes on the dialogue, because they knew every once in a while I'd be like an alligator and I'd grab somebody and embarrass them. And that's one of the things I like about the View is reasonable people can just see how out of touch they are. And I think that's with a lot of the Democratic Party. And I think that's what we need to win. The truth is, because ideas don't matter about race, right? The way, like the woke ideology is wrong because it's flawed. Like, look, the truth is, having things on merit base is always better than another form of racial discrimination. It's just the truth. And that's what the message of Martin Luther King was really about. Judge a person by their character. And when you change, you shuffle the board, it's still a form of racial discrimination, and it's going to have negative effects for all of us. And the other thing too is when you open the border because your ideas are so bad and you need new votes, and you don't properly vet who's coming in, you have things what happened in New York City subway yesterday.
Yeah.
People getting burnt alive. Like, hold on. Things need to stop for the safety of all of us. You know what a lot of this reminds me of, guys? Reminds me when I was in 4th grade and we had a substitute teacher come in, and the whole class just went chaotic. It was like a clown show. And when my teacher came back the next day, inside I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
That's what we need now. Now, the one thing I liked about JD, I thought JD Vance was a poor pick initially. And I thought it because, look, I was like, we really need to appeal to our nation's diverse. You know, it's funny. I've spoken up against, I've spoken up, and I've had others say that I was like my previous law firm in the way they tried to cancel me. And literally, they fired me because they stated that I promoted negative perspectives of Blacks and Muslims, which is 100% false.
Yeah.
And they did that to try to, in my opinion, to try to, number one, punish me for speaking up on social media, and then two, destroy my ability to earn a livelihood in the New Jersey legal community by basically painting me as a racist, which is a death sentence in a legal community if you're a white male.
Sure.
And so, and I find it so kind of, it doesn't even hold weight, because anybody who knows me knows that's not true. And, you know, something I don't even advertise is like my family's married to every race there is. Like, you know, so I don't, you know, it's just so much bullshit.
Yeah.
So but the truth is, for our country's sake and for everybody's sake, we need to be more successful in sharing our ideas and bringing more, Latino, Asian, and African Americans and females into seeing, like, look, our ideas right now about being like fiscally responsible, about being secure, about realizing, look, there's threats in our world, and we gotta address those threats. And the truth is, certain monsters out there, they gotta be taken out.
Right.
It's like a cancer, right? Like, I remember my son was diagnosed with cancer, a rare form of liver cancer. And he had, you know, he did the right thing. He got it taken out, the tumor taken out right away, so it wouldn't spread, right? And that's what it's like the broken window the broken window theory in crime, right? And so the broken window theory is if there's a broken window in a factory or a bunch of graffiti and you don't do anything about it, you change the norms of acceptable behavior. And all of a sudden, now it's not a broken window or graffiti, it's burning tires.
Sure.
And it builds. And so what happens, like the example that they set here with basically letting with Biden recent, it's not Biden. It's, to be honest with you, it's President Obama's third term in his inner circle. Biden wasn't making any decisions. And so what this woke ideology did is they sent this message like, you think it's a deterrence now? Like if you're going to kill kids or you're a mass murderer, that's it. Boom, it's over. We're not dealing with you anymore. You're done. That sent a much stronger signal than this. And it's so funny the way they tried to look what they did to Kyle Rittenhouse, right? And look what they did to this Marine in New York. They tried to do the same thing, right? Here's two guys who were like, okay, look, they're burning buildings and like, I'm not letting them burn any more of the town. Or look, this guy's over here threatening people and getting crazy on the subway. You saw what just happened yesterday. And it's like, look, man, I'm afraid he's going to hurt somebody, so I'm going to stop it.
You know what, Bill? That's a fantastic point. I never thought of that. So the kid, the Marine that just got acquitted, he's trying to save other people's lives. Now, nobody does anything 2 days ago. This Guatemalan, I think he was, sets this woman on fire, and nobody does anything to help. Like, okay, so if somebody was there to help this poor woman, but probably everybody was, I'm sure, I can't speak for other people, but they're probably now saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything because I'm going to get put on trial for trying to help somebody else, right? So,
that's right.
Well, there's a clear message that has been sent since day one with Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros funded attorney general for, attorney, not attorney general. What is he? He's a prosecutor, right, for the whole city. If you go back to the bodega owner that was assaulted and he defended himself, they prosecuted him. They threw that guy in Rikers Island. Right. And eventually he got out. But the message is clear. The criminals are the good people and the good people are the bad people.
Hey, Bill, you know what I think is entertaining now, too? There's a story came out in the New York Post where Biden's underlings were trying to state that they hid his mental deficiency for years. And I'm thinking, you hid it? It was like the whole world.
Kind of obvious.
Well, that's why they had him in the basement during the previous election, right? When he supposedly beat Trump. Look, they'll do anything and everything to retain power. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, the word is patsy, right? Biden was a patsy. They loved the fact that he was mentally incompetent.
Sure.
Because he was nothing but a mouthpiece. He was nothing but a signature. That guy was a straight puppet.
And kind of, in some ways, you kind of feel bad. Like there's this elderly gentleman. I know, Mark, you're going back and forth, but I know we don't feel bad for him. But as if it was my father, I would say, Dad, come on, we got to get you off the stage. There's just no way you're capable of being up. Like there was a video recently, Mark and I joked around about it, where Biden and his wife are out on the beach going for a walk, and she stays about 10 feet away from him, and the poor guy could barely walk through the sand. And like they got the cameras there and the whole bit. It's almost like they were intending to make him look as bad as possible. And I know we shouldn't feel bad for him, but in some ways.
When I think about that, I go back to the Pentagon and their failed leadership. I mean, here's the truth. There's plenty of brilliant people in the Pentagon.
Sure.
You think they didn't have wind of that a mile away?
Yeah.
You think people in our intelligence agencies, our CIA, FBI, NCA, you think they didn't have wind of that miles away? But they were so compromised. They failed to do the basic thing for our country, the betterment of our country. But you want to know the reason why? They knew Biden was, number one, mentally compromised, but number two, you want to talk about compromise and from so many different foreign intelligence agencies. Look at his son. Do you think they didn't have look, there's a reason why that Chinese spy balloon didn't get shot down to went all the way to the Atlantic. It's because Biden was fucking compromised. His family was compromised. All our intelligence agencies knew it. Our Pentagon knew it. They failed to speak up. They put us all at risk. And you know what? They need to be held accountable.
Right.
They need to be held accountable.
Okay, so the reason we're here today, too, then, to kind of circle back to that. So January 14th, Pete Hegseth is having his hearing. So Bill and Mark are putting together as many people as possible to go down to Washington, D.C. to is it the War Memorial?
The Vietnam War Memorial Wall.
January 14th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you think Pete will really be the guy that will hold the Pentagon and others more accountable and that kind of stuff?
Pete was the loudest voice calling it out. Now, here's the thing, right? Look, the way warfare is now, the way things are getting advanced, like we need to get our shit together fast.
Yeah.
Right? And we can't have individuals in leadership in the military that, number one, aren't going to. The military's job isn't what my job is or your job is. The military's job is only to protect us in times of war and need. Right? There's no second place in war. Right? There's no second place in war. They need to refocus on combat efficiency, lethality, and investing in technology that's going to give us a tactical edge, and a merit-based approach that's going to put the best capable man and woman in a position to succeed in war.
Okay, so interrupt you. Sorry, Bill. Men and women. So Pete was quoted, I think, on, is it Ryan, somebody's podcast?
Sean Ryan podcast.
Sean Ryan's podcast. Where, and correct me if I'm wrong.
FYI, I'm one of his attorneys.
Oh, Pete's or Ryan?
Sean Ryan.
Sean Ryan.
And FYI, my boss, Tim Parlatore, is Pete Hegseth's attorney.
Okay, very good. So is it correct to say on that show he was quoted as saying women should not be in combat? Is that accurate the way he said that?
Now, well, I believe he said something to that effect, but it's not exactly accurate.
Okay.
I believe his beliefs regarding me and women in the military are identical. And it's this. The truth is, Tom, you're a professional hockey player for many years of your life. You know more than me that there's physical differences between men and women, 100%. Now, there's in the SEAL teams and some of these premier direct action units, right? There's no bullshit going on here.
Right.
Some of the stuff we're doing is like extremely physical. I'll just give you two examples. One is coming on a rib onto these huge cargo ships in the middle of the night. You put this flexible PBS pipe with a cable ladder. You cop it to the top of the cargo ship. You got another rib here. It's trying to stay close, but moving back and forth. Now you got to climb up this thing in the middle of the night. That cargo ship's moving. The ribs moving, and sometimes it goes out. And I got my vest on. I got my guns with me. I was a radio guy, so I got my radio with me. I got my sat antenna. I got extra lithium batteries. Dude, that's like 150, 200 pounds easy on my ruck. Ooh. And it's a small ladder. You want to talk about upper body strength? No joke.
Right.
I don't know too many men that can do that. And sure. To be honest with you, 2 SEALs recently drowned in the Red Sea. It's called VBSS, Visit Board Search and Seize. And there they took down a dhow that came from Iran and right off the coast of Somalia, and they actually confiscated Iranian warheads that were going to be used for the Houthis. That's 2 SEALs that recently drowned doing it up. And I can tell you another thing. You got a DZ that's hot. And a lot of the buildings in the Middle East, there's a couple common denominators to a lot of them. A lot of them have like wall compounds and like a double gate entrance. And then too, a lot of them have flat roofs. And so I remember doing this thing, they called it hot lipping, right? And so the helo would come right to the end of the building and where the lip of the building is. So the lip would go up and it's just hovering like right there. The doors are open to the H-860. The crew's got their hand out there like that, laying down. And the guys run and take that leap of faith off the cliff into the helicopter. Now, that's with your vest.
Right.
You're running with your gun like this. your ruck on your back. With me, I had my comm gear on there. This is no bullshit stuff, man.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about when guys get hit, guys are dragging guys out. We were big men.
Yeah.
The sincerity of it, there's differences between men and women.
Well, and you taught me too. Bill put us, it's like 4 or 5 years ago. Bill was good enough, and we went out to Pennsylvania, a farm out there, and Bill had some tactical training, which was freaking cool. And one of the things, I took many things away. For one of the things I took away was that you taught us when you're shooting the gun, shooting your weapon, you're not shooting to protect yourself. You're shooting to protect your teammate. Now, like what you're saying here, it's not a disrespect to women in any way. It's just a physical reality.
That's right.
So you need to know that when you're in that battle, your back is protected because of your teammate. And if you feel like it's not, anytime you're doubting that, now the whole mission falls apart, right?
Yeah.
So
well, you're thinking differently back here, right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is true. Like, look, I believe in equality and I believe in liberty. I'm one of those guys who thoroughly believes in the values of the Constitution. Like, it's like, I understand that our founding fathers were severely flawed, but I think our country's taken great measures to meet up to those standards. And now I'm concerned because with cancel culture and everything else, I think they're taking a back step. But regarding women, so I was at one of my causes, I was a joint terminal air controller. So I've worked with female pilots and they're good. They're really good. I mean, hot good. I got no issues with majority of those type of positions in the military. And a lot of modern warfare, like they're talking about lowering the standards. I disagree.
Yeah.
I think to compete in today's technologically advanced military, we need to raise the standards. And what we need to do is we got to make it more appetizing for good men and women with the talents that we need to come into the military. And to me, it's like one of the things that is tax-free. Like if you do 10 years in the military, you don't have to pay federal taxes for the rest of your life. Some type of significant advantage to becoming in the military, because we can't lower the standards because warfare is becoming advanced. So we need to actually raise the standards. And to do that, we need to raise the benefits that will entice the type of talent we need. As far as women in certain combat units, look, I believe in life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I believe if you can meet the standards, then internally I have a hard time saying, no, a woman can't. But I'm also concerned with the current woke ideology that's infested the Pentagon and military leadership, is that they lower the standards to get the results that they want. And one of the issues I have, though, is the truth is the current studies that they have, there was like a 2017, they called it the Marine Integration Study. And the reports on there where they basically had mixed units, all female units, and then all male units. And it had a series of different type of military type of exercises that they would go through. And the all male units performed substantially better. And a lot of the reasons why is speed, agility, and then also the injury rates and the performance rates. So,
yeah. So how is Pete? Is that going to hold him back, you think, because of what he said on Sean Ryan's show?
I think, look, they'll do anything and everything to try to get his head on the wall, right? They would love to take him out. And that's why it's important for us to be at the march. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's plenty of female veterans that are upset about that. I can't blame them. Right. If your position is on that, then look, I believe in the open market ideas. I believe that, weigh it out. I don't want to cancel anybody's opinion of what's going on. I do strongly want to say, hey, a lot of this is part of a buddy of mine, Kaz Larson, came up with the term to me. He calls it woke-fare. There's lawfare and there's woke-fare. And woke-fare is when they just slander to try to muddy you up. I just want to say a lot of this stuff, like anonymous sources, I pay zero attention to anonymous sources. When I hear anonymous, I think bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. So a woman like Tulsi Gabbard's a famous one, right? Served in the military honorably. Is she offended then by Pete saying that kind of stuff, or will she understand what he's saying and what you're saying right now? Is it just reality? It's biological that a woman just is not as strong as a man.
Well, I never want to speak for anybody else, but what's my interpretation here? I think Tulsi and Pete have some really common denominators. One is they both honorably served. They both in leadership roles, and they both put on the line for a country. That's great. Now, two is they're both outspoken against the woke ideology. That means they have courage and they put the interest of our country first, not the interest of their personal careers first, like a lot of the leaders in the Pentagon did when they bent a knee for the woke ideology. So I think she is smart enough to realize in our premier direct action combat units that the statistics show that all male units perform better.
Right.
And if you're focused on what the military should be focused on, and the primary thing is combat efficiency, then I think that wins the argument. Unless you can show me studies that show that mixed units perform at the same proficiency levels as male units, and these premier direct action elite combat units.
Okay. All right. So just to be clear, January 14th, 9:00 in the morning at the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Everybody will be getting together. Are you going to try to will you be on like shows like Sean Ryan, pumping that up too as well to kind of promote that?
Well, there's a couple of things to this. So I have an attorney-client relationship with Sean.
Yep.
So it's just like the military's number one focus is what combat efficiency so they can protect us in times of need. My relationship with Sean is strictly focused as I'm his attorney. So I necessarily can't make that relationship more complex with my own personal advocacy. But I am honored to be on your podcast, Tom, and with you, Mark. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Love it, brother.
We'll do at least one more time. We'll hopefully do it several more times before January 14th too. Just in general, Bill, and
that's what I told my girlfriend yesterday.
several more times. Oh God. Just a general question, and I know you'll be brutally honest. So I don't even have to say, please be honest about it. So a lot of, like you mentioned before, people will say bad things about Navy SEALs to try to discredit them or other members of the military. Go back to the Vietnam War, all the stuff that was said about those guys and everything. Do you ever get to yourself, hey, listen, shut up. You sat on your couch while I'm over in Vietnam or I'm over in wherever I am fighting. Did they just in general, do the guys that have served the country feel like that?
Yes, and reminds me of a poem by Thomas Roosevelt, I believe, about the man in the arena. It's the same thing with look, we live in an open democracy, and freedom of speech is extremely important, right? So I don't look if it's shine a flashlight that you want, fine, checks and balances are good, but look, don't try to Monday morning quarterback sometimes something, and at least get the facts before you speak up. At least do some research. Just like look what happened. Think about Pete Hegseth, how corrupt the military elite has become, where West Point is going to basically lie and say that Pete Hegseth wasn't invited to attend West Point, and try to make Pete out to be a liar when it turns out he was. And they put it out twice. Like that's how they don't ever think they're not trying to reminds me of a kid that's trying to stack the deck in cards, like don't ever think they're not trying to do that. And it's that's West Point, one of our premier military institutions.
Oh, so they went out and slandered him too. They were saying bad stuff about him.
Well, they basically told a news outlet that Pete lied about being accepted into West Point, and they put that out there twice. And then the news outlet reached out to Pete Hegseth's team and said, I think they said you have like 3 hours to respond, and we're going to go public.
Oh.
He held up the letter. He still had the acceptance letter.
Oh, wow, very cool.
Well, one is sometimes you think, well, it's like Mount St. Helen. I remember I watched the movie about it when I was a kid, And like there was some, I forget the guys scientists that study this type of stuff. And he's like looking at Mount St. Helens and he sees some little like swampy pond by it. And it's like bubbling up with water. Now that's just a little sign. But like his point was like how deep this really is. Like he's trying to tell people Mount St. Helens is getting ready to go. And like nobody was listening to him because he was smart enough to realize how deep that problem really was. And what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to use a parallel, similar example. West Point, one of our literally the premier, I'm a Navy guy, so I hate to say this, but the premier military academy in our nation, right?
Yeah.
They tried to push up some negative BS story about Pete Hegseth that he wasn't accepted there when he was.
Wow.
That's a problem.
Well, you know what's so stupid about that too? They obviously know he really was. They were lying. Like, why would they even say it knowing that he's not just going to allow that to happen? Because
you know what? Think about it. I can't tell you. I don't have any emails or letters from that many years ago. Yeah. What if he didn't say that?
Yeah, very true.
Well, I put in things for colleges, and I got some acceptance letters I just threw away.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You told a story one time too when you were going through your training, for being a SEAL. How they thought you weren't smart enough, right? So they wanted to make sure that you couldn't pass. And now look what you're doing now. I think that's pretty cool. So,
well, you know what? I got to tell you, those guys they were brutal to me.
Yeah,
because there's a no BS school at the SEAL training, and they thought I was too dumb to be a SEAL, but that saved my life because the Navy saved my life. Because what happened was they let me know right away, like hard, like, coming across as not astute is like not acceptable. Like it's not going to work here at all.
Right.
And like, I thought the SEAL teams were just, kicking indoors, taking names and I don't, it's a little different.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna be a smart man too. Well, first of all, great to see you again, Bill. And again, I'm sorry that it had to get out publicly about the small size of your penis. But I think that's another great thing about how hard how like I really admire you that you fought through that your life, like even carrying that burden around, having the smallest penis. So, but again, January 14th, 9:00 in the morning. You know what? I'm planning on being there January 14th. Do not give me any microphones because if I get a microphone, I'm getting up there talking about your penis in front of thousands of people too. So okay, so we're gonna.
You know what, Tom? If I wind up something happens to me, it's your fault.
They're gonna do an autopsy there. Like, oh yeah, Tom was right. All right. So again, January 14th, great cause. Pete Hegseth is having his hearing January 14th in Washington, D.C. Bill and everybody, I'm proud to be part of the group, is putting together as many people as possible to go to the Vietnam War Memorial at 9:00 in the morning and have hopefully just a peaceful little rally to support Pete down there. So another great cause by Mr. Bill Brown. So,
all right, and all guys with me, don't be ashamed. It's all right if we have small cocks.
All right. Have a good Christmas, everybody. Good to see you guys.
Merry Christmas, man.